Why hasn't Israel's economy collapsed yet? Israel has been in a state of war since at least 2023. So logically, when a country is in a state of war, the economy is supposed to collapse. Even if you look at the US economy that is not being hit directly, the US economy is suffering. Its debt to GDP is rising faster than ever, and it seems like the US economy is about to face a stagflation, especially when inflation is getting out of control. If you compare that to Israel, Israel has an inflation rate of 2%. Its debt to GDP ratio is about 70%. That is literally like half of the United States. And Israel's GDP is booming. So what exactly makes Israel so special? Why is Israel's economy still growing even though that they have launched probably the greatest war in the history of Israel? When there is a war in the economy, the first thing that usually happens is that there is capital flight. You have rich people who have amassed so much fortune. They've worked their entire lives and they made a lot of money. And now when there is a war, the first thing they would do is that they will pack up and move that money out of the country. And when money leaves the country, the logical thing that happens is that there is less money in the economy. So the economy shrinks. The second thing that usually happens, there is a labor shortage. When there is a war, the government mobilizes the young people. So young people, instead of going to work, they are going to go to war. That also slows down the economy because suddenly businesses are having a huge shortage of labor in the market, which can push the economy into a recession. And finally, there is lack of security. If you think that you're not secure in this country, you want to leave the country. You're less likely to spend money. In fact, when there is a war, there is uncertainty about the future. So the general population tend to actually save money instead of spending money. So when all these three things happens at the same time, you're supposed to have a recession or some sort of a financial crisis. Now let's compare that to the United States. The United States has been in a state of war for a very long time, which is the main reason that the United States is running a huge deficit. Like the current deficit is about $2 trillion, which is 6 to 7% of the entire GDP. And that's a really huge number. That's the main reason why the United States has high interest rates. When you have high inflation, your central bank, or in this case the Federal Reserve, will be forced to hike interest rates. Because if you don't do that, you are going to have hyperinflation. So the cost of borrowing rises, businesses will find it much more difficult to raise money, which means that the economy is going to slow down because the economy goes in cycles. When you have a lot of debt in the economy, such as in the case of the United States, it leads to a stagflation because the economy slows down, but your debt still grows and you still have to make interest payments. So a stagflation is even way worse than a recession. But Israel's economy is actually booming due to this war. Why is Israel's economy booming even though that's in a state of war? And the war with Iran can actually boost Israel's economy, but on the other side, there is a chance that Israel's economy could completely collapse. Now here's why. You see, Israel hasn't actually fought a major war since 1970s. All these wars that Israel has fought has been a war where Israel has a huge advantage over their adversary. Take the war in Gaza. These people in Gaza, they have nothing. They don't have fighter jets, they don't have tanks, they don't have advanced missiles. They have literally nothing. So this is not actually a war. This is Israel literally testing the most advanced weapons they have on a population that is over 2 million people. Yes, sometimes they might actually shoot a missile or two to Israel, but these missiles, first of all, are not accurate. Secondly, they are not advanced. And thirdly, Israel has the most advanced defense system in the world called Iron Dome. So 99.9% of these missiles are intercepted anyways. So when you have that kind of a situation, then suddenly investors are not afraid to keep their money. There isn't a huge labor shortage because you don't have to mobilize the entire nation. And finally, there isn't actually a lack of security. Now, another important thing to pay attention to is that United States has always been beside Israel, especially since 2023. So when the war against Gaza started, the United States actually sent military aid worth over $21 billion to Israel. So now you have a lot of money. That is literally more than the entire military budget of Israel. But besides that, the United States has sent an aircraft carrier to Mediterranean Sea to support Israel. So the US has actually spent billions of dollars more to help Israel. So if you're an investor, what do you think? Do you trust Israel more or less when you have the most powerful economy and the most powerful military backing you up directly, both with money and their military? That's why there isn't a huge flight capital out of Israel. People feel a sense of security and a sense of certainty about the future. Because if you have certainty about the United States, then you have certainty about Israel. In fact, war can actually be really great because of how we measure the size of the economy. So this is GDP, gross domestic product, the most popular way, the way we measure the size of the economy. And it consists of four main parts. You have consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. Consumption is when people spend money. The more we spend money, the more money circulates in the economy, and the more the economy is growing. And that's why when there is a war and people stop spending, the economy slows down. But in this case, as we have realized that people did not stop spending because they have certainty. Then you have investments. There hasn't been a capital flight because of the reasons that I have explained earlier. But here is where it actually gets interesting. You have government spending. Government spending is one of the main drivers of the GDP and the economy overall. Now think about it this way. What happens to government spending when there is a war? It shoots to the roof. Suddenly, the government is forced to mobilize people, which means that now the government is actually spending a lot of money to drive the economy. But that also means that the government is actually buying a lot of military equipment. They're buying a lot of missiles. They're buying a lot of ammunition. So you have factories working 24/7 to ensure that the government is always supplied. And the government always has two sources for revenue. One, they will take it either from taxes. Two, they will either take it by raising money. So that demand keeps growing the economy. But here's where it actually gets really interesting with Israel. Israel has some of the best military defense technology in the world, and they are literally the leader of cybersecurity. So the entire world is trying to buy the most advanced military technology in the world. So, for example, everybody wants to get their hands on the most advanced missiles in the world. Israel is developing them. They're spending a lot of money to develop them, and then they're testing it directly in the battlefield. So take an example of Gaza. The United States has, or no, Israel in this case, has tested the most advanced weapons they have. So the rest of the world can actually see, look at these missiles, look at these bombs, look at this military technology, look at this defense technology, look at the Iron Dome, the way it intercepts the missiles. So basically, the rest of the world can actually see if these military technologies that Israel has developed work or not. And if they work, and they seem to work, they actually start getting clients from across the globe. When you get clients, other nations, it could be the neighboring countries, it could be the United States itself, it could be like Southeast Asia, they will start buying your military equipment. So suddenly, more revenue pouring into your country, you're making far more money. When your GDP grows, now you can borrow more money because we don't actually count debt in form of the debt itself, but rather in relation to the GDP. So for example, let's say that your GDP is $100 and the total amount of debts that you have is $100. Now your debt to GDP ratio is 100%. If your GDP grows to 120%, now you can borrow another $20 where your debt to GDP ratio will still remain 100% in this case. So this strategy allows the Israel to spend even more money to develop far better military technologies and cybersecurity products. Then they're going to use it on the neighboring countries, then they will get more clients. So this turns into this flywheel that allows the Israeli government to continue growing their economy because they can keep doing this thing. And remember, the GDP, one of the most fundamental part of it, is net exports. When you're exporting them to other countries, you're actually getting money. Now, not many other nations can actually do something like that. Look at South Korea. South Korea is a manufacturing powerhouse. They're building a lot of technologies as well. They're building missiles. They're building a lot of military defense technologies. But can they test those military technologies on North Korea? Well, of course not, because if they do that, they will get nuked, and that will be essentially the end of South Korea. But Israel has that advantage. Now, I'm not trying to say that it's worth it or not. I'm not trying to justify their actions. I'm not trying to say whatever they are doing is right or wrong. That is a completely different question. I'm simply telling you from the financial perspective why the Israeli economy hasn't collapsed yet, even though they have been in a state of war for a very long time. And what makes the Israeli community or the Israeli population very different is that there is a 3 years mandatory military service for every male in Israel. What's the point of military? Now, in the US, you have an option. You're not necessarily to go or obligated to go and serve. It's optional. But in Israel, it's not optional. 3 years of your life will be spent in the military service. That means that they will make you disciplined, they will make you work hard, they will make you learn how to work with your team. So everybody has to go that process. Essentially, you have the entire population that is literally mobilized, and they have this entrepreneurial spirit and they have this teamwork, which means that when they leave the military service, they go and start companies, they start building businesses. That's something rare because not in many other nations, military service is a requirement or an obligation. And the Israeli military isn't like some backwarded military. It's literally one of the most advanced militaries in the world. The Israeli population also a very young, energetic population. Now, if you compare Israel to a country such as the UK or Germany or even Japan, you would see that in countries such as Japan, you have the most or the vast majority of the population are very old population, and you have very little young people because birth rates are very low. That forces the government to raise money from young people and spend it on the old people for social programs. So you have to make social security payments, you have to make Medicare payments. But in the case of Israel, you have very high birth rates. So you have a huge concentration of young people and much lower older people in relation to young people. So suddenly you're making a lot of money from taxes, but you're spending very little on social programs because you don't have much old people to begin with. So that is an advantage that Israel has compared to many other nations. But here is the biggest challenge in the history of Israel. The Iran war is going to be the biggest test in the history of Israel because this is the most powerful country Israel has faced probably since the inception of Israel to begin with. Of course, this is not a fair fight. This is not a fight where Israel versus Iran, but rather this is the United States and Israel versus Iran. But if missiles start hitting Israel, that is going to cause a lot of investments to leave and flight out of Israel. Up until now, Israel was safe. The Iron Dome protected the entire country. But now you have a country that have very advanced ballistic missiles that can penetrate your defense system and hit whatever they want. Now suddenly, if you're an investor, you will think twice. Should I keep my money in Israel? Or maybe it's time to buy real estate outside Israel. It's far better to invest in a business outside Israel. This is not going to happen instantly. But if this war is going to be dragged, for example, for 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years, and Israel consistently is going to get hit directly, then a lot of investors are going to question their investments in Israel. If the United States will ask Israel to get involved much more heavily than the United States is asking Israel now, that might mean that Israel will have to borrow a lot of money. Of course, that is very unlikely because the United States wants Israel to succeed. That's why there is a lot of military aid to Israel to begin with. But if something like that is going to happen, Israel simply does not have the financial capability to maintain such a huge war. Because if suddenly your debt is going to grow much faster than your GDP, then you will simply bury yourself in debt just like the United States has done. And finally, it is very difficult to transition from a heavily wartime economy into a peacetime economy. So if Israel's economy has been thriving under this war, where Israel has a huge advantage, If there is no more wars, suddenly you are going to fall into a recession because there is no huge demand for ammunition. The government is not actually mobilizing hundreds of thousands of young people and paying them really good to stay in the military. The government isn't actually spending that much money to begin with. So we are still in the beginning of this war. Yes, there is a probability that this war is going to end much sooner than most people expect. But if this war is going to turn into a ground invasion, then you can expect a serious slowdown in Israel's economy. In fact, if you actually think about it, Iran war is one of the greatest wealth transfers in history because a lot of people are going to make a lot of money out of it, and a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money in this war. Trillions of dollars going to shift from one group of people to another. Now, you can't actually influence this war. Most people have no power. You don't have the military power, you don't have the financial power. But what you can do during this war is to take advantage out of it and make sure that you make billions of dollars out of this war. Make sure that you get out of this war financially independent. Because during any kind of war, certain assets, certain stocks are going to rise, and certain assets or certain stocks are going to fall. So the real question is that, are you just watching this war from afar, or actually capitalizing on this war and buying the assets that are going to make you a lot of money? So if you want a step-by-step instruction on which asset should you be buying, which stock should you be buying, then join the Investing Academy. The link is going to be in the description of this video.